beloved writers. She won the Pulitzer Prize and the National Book Award for her phenomenal bestseller, The Color Purple. Her new book, Anything We Love Can Be Saved, is in bookstores now. Please welcome Alice Walker. Hello there. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good.
How are you?
Good to see you.
Good
I
to
am
see
a
you
huge fan of your work.
Ah, I'm glad. Thank you.
You are welcome. Well deserved. Absolutely loved all your books. I have not read the new one yet. I read excerpts last night. I love the message of it. Anything we love can be saved.
I love your honesty.
Well, thank you very much. That's very nice.
Yes.
It is a really wonderful message, and it's really sort of about your life and the activism that you've sort of been involved with your entire life.
Yeah, right.
Instilled by your mom, you think?
Well, I think my mother was someone who just really was the tree of life in our community. And so seeing her inspired me. She was very much involved with the children and the church and everybody. And so this was something that has kept me hopeful.
Yeah. Did she encourage you to be a writer? Did you always know this was your destiny?
No, she didn't encourage me, although she tells a really funny tale about how when I was crawling, she was looking for me one day. I was lost. And she found me behind the house, backed up against the house, probably in diapers, scribbling in the margins of a Sears Roebuck catalog with a twig.
Oh, she knew then.
Yeah, I think so.
When did you have the first sort of conscious thought that that would be something you wanted to spend your life doing?
I wrote my first book when I was in college.
Wow.
And before that, I had been writing poetry for about 10 years. But I didn't think of it as a career. I thought of it as something that really just helped me get through the night. You know, because art, creativity is something that really helps you keep going on. Because, you know, you have to wait until tomorrow to see if you have actually created something the day before.
Right.
And if it's still there, I mean, it can be anything. It can be a quilt, a basket, a painting. But if it's still there, then you go on to the next day.
I love the message of the Same River Twice talks about your experience of being involved in the making of the film, The Color Purple. And I love the title underneath the title. What is that called? The subtitle? I'm not
Yes,
sure.
the subtitle.
Honoring the difficult.
Yes, yes.
Honoring the difficult. What a great thing that is. And it sort of explores a lot of the problems or the emotional turmoil that you had involved in making that film.
Well, there's a reason for looking back. Some people are afraid to because they think that they'll be like Lot's people who turn to salt.
Right.
That if you look back, you get stuck. But actually, you need to look back to see how you managed and to learn the lessons that were left there, you know, in that place that was so difficult. And that's what I'm doing. I'm looking back in that book to see what I learned from making a film of my book, especially because at the time it was so heavily criticized and because I was ill at the time and my mother was dying. So it was 10 years before I could really look at it and see what treasures I got, and I got a lot of them.
Yeah, it's really a great book, very fascinating to see sort of the behind-the-scenes working at what I think is an amazing film and a wonderful, beautiful book to make it from. The story about Santa Claus I read, which I have to say I loved.
Good.
You tell everyone that. It was very inspirational.
Well, but I was not going to talk about Santa because I know you feel very close to Santa and you really are very concerned about, you know, everything.
Well,
but
you know, I know that you're able to do it in a way that will not annoy Santa.
Okay. Well, you know, this was, you know, in my community, we didn't know that there were any good white people. I mean, this was just a fact. And so Santa, though, was considered to be the only good white man that anyone, you know, ever knew. I mean, we'd heard of Abraham Lincoln, and we'd heard of Roosevelt. My father really liked Roosevelt. But Santa Claus was the symbol of the possibility of a good white man. And so he would come down the chimney every Christmas, and he would leave us, you know, our things. But then, when I was 3, they had told me the story with such vividness that I said, I saw Santa, you know. But actually, it was my father. It was my father. And he was Santa.
Yeah. And it taught you, really, about sort of the meaning, because you were angry at one point at your parents for sort of passing on this myth to you.
Yes, I was very angry because it was very similar to being given, you know, the white male God as the God for black people and women. And then I began to understand that they were trying to help me to see that even though we knew no good white people, really, I mean, that is to say people who would stand up for us, people who believed we should have equality, people who would even permit us to vote. We knew no white person who believed that. This was saying to us that this is one benign, good person who comes to our house every year. And we honor that. And one day, maybe, because you know that this is one good one, maybe one day you will actually meet some good ones. And so when I later went to college, which is where I first met good white people, when I saw a couple, I recognized them.
That's a wonderful, wonderful story. I'm really very touched by that. I loved the part that about you would go to your mom's house and you'd realize things were missing.
Well,
as she got older.
Yes. Well, my mother was someone who had always wanted a beautiful house. And because we were very poor, she never had that. And then she was able, when I was in high school, to find a beautiful little house for us. But it was a struggle because she had to work really hard to pay for it, to pay the rent. So when I went away to college, she moved into the projects. And she loved it. I mean, people hear this story and they think, oh, how terrible. But actually, my mother's little apartment was very sweet. But in any case, the years before she died, I would visit her because I loved being with my mother. She was wonderful. And I noticed that everything, she had very little, but the little that she had was dwindling. It was just disappearing. And I said to her, well, Mom, where are all your things? And she said, well, I'm giving them away because I don't need them. And she said, if you want anything here, you take it, because it won't be here when you come back. And I found these 2 bowls, and one of them was a blue bowl, is a blue bowl, and it's the most important thing I own. And when I serve people food out of that bowl, it reminds me that my mother, in these little awful houses that we lived in, on cold winter days when we were freezing, she would manage to fill that bowl with whatever was the most delicious, wonderful food on the planet. And she herself would give us food from this bowl. And she was a goddess. And that is what I came to understand. My mother as an earth goddess and as this wonderful person, that was always so sustaining.
And what a wonderful tribute to her, all your work, all the work that you do. And it moves so many people, it really does. I think that you're just absolutely phenomenal, and I cannot wait to read this. The weekend I finally have off after the Tony Awards. This will be the book that I read, because the snippets that I read were simply amazing. Anything We Love Can Be Saved is the name of it. If you have not bought it, go out and do so, please. Alice Walker, it is really a privilege to have you here, and I thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with a performance from The Light after this.